Okay.
We on?
So hello everyone, I'm Michelle Alba and I am super excited to have Kevin Walton here sharing his wisdom with us. And I just finished taking his 8-week-long creatorhood training so that I could be more of an embodied conscious creator and set a new standard in my own life, where I've been working with Kevin for a couple of years and he helped me so much to get through a lot of daddy issues and sadness that I was holding for years that I didn't even know I was holding, that was keeping me from really loving myself richer, fuller. And Kevin's one of the very few people that I really, admire so much, because he just is. He embodies what he teaches, and I really admire people when they, you know, you could teach people with your words and know things in your head, but Kevin really embodies in every single DNA molecule, every single vibrational molecule of Kevin. And I just can't stop talking about him with my clients, and the fact that he has helped me so much in my life in all areas. And a part of what's going on right now, I feel that I wanted to have him come on, was to share with us his insights, because he goes full all out, unapologetically, 24/7. And at first I think I was scared of him, which I know it's a projection, whatever I feel inside of me. And so there's been this sort of fear that I've had of not being so big or not being so open, or I don't know quite yet even, but I notice with my clients, I notice in the world how much we have suppressed ourselves, how much for thousands and thousands of years. And look at what's happening in the government, look at what's happening just in Hollywood. And it's a time for us to just wake up and wake out. And even with relationships, I find so many, because I work with people with Tantra for couples, and I find how so many of us settle. There's so many of us living mundane, average lives, when I know that we were put on this planet to rock and roll it. And Kevin's helped me to really understand that. And so what's up with us, Kevin, that so many of us are deciding less than in our lives? And what are some tips that we could take in, and some, I mean, I know, of course, working one-on-one with you is the best. And the next creatorhood is coming. So, yeah. But like, yeah, so give us your wisdom.
I would say, well, first of all, thank you for that. Super humbling, and I'm immensely grateful and honored. And it's been awesome to work with you and to see you continue to step into all that you are. And you know what we're here to do. You just said it, right? To really live in our fullest, right, our most authentic expression. And that's really the journey of life. Like it's such a comprehensive thing, and it's very easy to get wrapped up into like one aspect of it or another, and miss the entire picture from the overview and the details. And what I would say to just your initial question is, you know, when it comes to navigating life, we're driven by this idea of safety and significance, right? You've heard me talk about it a lot, and that's what I call the two generating appeals of operation, the thing that generates what appeals to us most in the way that we approach life and function. And when you start to explore the nature of how we navigate that, because that means if we feel it, our approach to life is one way, and if we don't feel safe and significant, our approach to life is another. And the only reason we would ever believe it to be beneficial to lower ourselves, suppress ourselves, withhold ourselves, is when we feel like there's something outside of us that we're after that would bring us the safety we don't feel like we have, or the significance we don't, or like the validation. So you have comfort and validation that we pursue. And that's the only reason why we would shut up when you know it's time to speak up, or not make a move on the things that matter to us most. And we'll start to create experiences and define our lives by this idea that we aren't safe enough to do this thing. And it comes up in a lot of stuff. It just came up in a beautiful client session I had this morning, where she realized this fear of being her fullest authentic expression, for that fear of like a repercussion or a consequence or punishment for ways that she'd experienced things in her childhood. And when you start to look at that idea, you see why people would start to choose comfort and validation over growth and liberation, right? That if they could spare themselves certain pains they don't want to have, and if this thing could give them the thing they're after. And it's just a misorientation of the mind, right, of how we do it. And if you've had like experience with your parents or friends or romantic
Or
partners where
self-worth. I think that one, if you value yourself, then you would have put up with other people's shit. And that's the one that, how would you recommend people value themselves more? Like, how do you say to somebody, just value yourself more, have more self-worth?
Well, I would say start addressing all the things you feel like are wrong with you. Because you know how when we have different feelings, whether it's insecure, insignificant, powerless, helpless, right? All those feelings that we have such judgments of, right? We have that
Especially
fear.
when I think a lot of us say, what's wrong with me? Like, I would say that, like, what's wrong with me? Why do I keep attracting unavailable emotional men? Remember? And what's wrong with me? And so instead of saying what's wrong with me, I can say, what do I decide to create?
Exactly.
Right?
You would say, where is it time for me to accept more of myself, and where can I step into a greater standard? Right? And that's the key, because when we start, you said it perfectly. Our language and the way we talk about ourselves reveals a lot about our mindset and our identities and our beliefs. And what's funny is every time we make a move to want to overcome a feeling or disregard a feeling or block out a feeling, we end up perpetuating it because it's already there. Like if you feel powerless and you don't like the idea of feeling powerless, your natural inclination is to kick up that anger and find a way to dominate something or argue to get something. Like you immediately want to cover up a feeling that is so important to address, of which if you actually address the feeling, you could take that anger and use the mature form of it, which is willpower, from a way more aligned, healthy place.
And then I think there's a lot of shame that we create too because of what we're feeling. So for me, who's like a spiritual healing catalyst, I'm so good at my job. But then when it comes to romance, that's been a part where I've been really protecting myself. And in a way, I think I've been embarrassed or ashamed of how it's interesting, because now, like with the politicians, my mom was saying how Bill Clinton was a great president. When we look at the presidential things that he helped for the country, but then his romance, you know, the personal, how you can excel in one area, but then have things to learn in another area. And so ever since I just said, I love you, Michelle, I love you no matter what, and look at myself more as what is the offering, what is it offering me, right? And I was protecting myself, I was keeping myself safe. So I have to be nice to that part of me that was so protective, rather than shame on you for not being able to create more in that area.
Right, because remember, life is comprehensive, right? It's comprehensive, and everything is an offering. Like, and this is the biggest hang up, especially that I see in conscious communities and spiritual, ideals of life, is we get so swept up in this idea that we think there's a good, bad, right, wrong, that we make mistakes and we have to learn lessons, and that there's an ideal way we're supposed to be, and if we're not meeting that means we're sabotaging ourselves. And we have all these judgments, even in those spaces where you think you're supposed to be unconditionally loving, you're still playing out divisiveness and opposition to yourself. When everyone starts to realize, and I will never say this enough, when everyone starts to realize just how much everything is an offering and an opportunity and is showing up in support, the more that starts to land, it reorients everything about reality. And your perspective shifts when you realize that experiences show up in support of you in support of you being who you're asking yourself to be, knowing what aspect must be addressed, knowing what aspect must be integrated, knowing what choices must change, what vision must get clearer, what thing must be shared, what piece must be integrated. The more everyone begins to look at all of life like that,
as a beautiful sacred opportunity.
That's
what I learned from you. One of many things where instead of seeing life right now as chaos, which is driving a lot of people nuts, you know, when they watch the news for hours and hours. So this is where more than ever I wish to help bring out these messages where, wow, you know, what if we could look at the news and say, what opportunity is this bringing me? And then I say, what can I, as one person, what can I do, me? And that's what led me to create the Wow Women of Abundance, Clear Your Mind, Elevate Your Energy. I have all these meditations on Insight Timer that people from Australia, New Zealand, like all around, because this little app those are the ways that I, thanks to a lot of you, transforming that shit into fertilizer and using it to grow. Because if we do think that things are bad, we're gonna go nuts. You know, it's way too heavy. So
And we miss all
why
the
hurt
fruitful
ourselves?
information. Yeah, we miss all the fruitful information when every experience that we create for ourselves offers a wealth of insight, and we miss it when we're too busy judging it.
Yes.
You know,
Yes, yes.
so when we really
Believe
see
me, I know.
the opportunity, when we see everything as a sacred opportunity, that means you're way more present with it. And you know, to be present is to be fully engaged. If you're fully engaged, you are receiving all
Fully
that,
engaged.
right? All that information. And you want that information because it's everything you're asking for. So when you look out the world, it's very easy if you're in a certain identity to get swept up in this narrative of judgment, like shit's all fucked up, things are crazy, there's nothing we can do, or go look at what's coming up for us that's now demanding we step into something greater. What can I do personally? What is it time for me to step into that I know I've been avoiding, neglecting? What standards do I set for my health, for my relationships, for my living situation? What gifts do I have that it's time to contribute, that I know it's time to contribute and I continually avoid? And go, what feelings do I still struggle to make peace with inside of me? What like judgments do I still carry, and shame, and where do I still struggle to actually honor myself, to bring more of me into everything I do? And that's what all this stuff offers us all the time, and it's always that way. It's never
And
an exception to that.
we're always growing also, we're always evolving. And so when we judge, when we criticize, when we analyze, analysis is paralysis. And so this is something else I've noticed shifts in my own body, how I'm going to be 47 in July. And since I am letting go of judgment, which I used to do a lot, I just wish to love. I say everything is love, everything is love, everything is love. So I've been brainwashing myself that everything is actually in the direction of teaching us how we can love more, how we can have more compassion, how we can have more acceptance. And I swear my shoulders, they feel liquidy, you know, I don't feel this heaviness that I used to feel, this heaviness before. And it's amazing. You know, love is really cool.
It is, right? It's cool. And it's not passive, right? Like love, the thing that people
It's
misunderstand
active,
about
yeah.
love is this idea, right? Love is active always. And it's because the definition of how we give it is that it's the acceptance of everything. That means it absolutely without fail honors you where you are, and absolutely without fail demands that you step into more of you. And just with that statement alone, everyone could understand love differently and drastically change their life in a day. Right? To go into realizing that love isn't, there's no passivity to it, there's no condition to it, it's not reserved for, it's like it's in everything, waiting to be accessed and utilized to be brought forth to live to that standard of full authentic expression. Because that's the only way you get there. There's no way for you to live in your full authentic expression if you are not accepting all of you and being willing to bring that forth in a way more aligned, generous way, because you have now stepped into a more peaceful state with yourself, you know. And that's what makes it so powerful. When you get to that space, that's where you really realize that life can be as effortless and graceful and dynamic and monumental as you want it to be, or it can be as difficult and sufferable and and anguishing as you want it to be. And neither of it is inherent. It's just literally your choice.
What you're deciding, yeah. I
Like,
decide.
I decide, the phrase that pays. Like, make a decision. It's not what should I do, it's what feels most alive for you, what is actually important to you, and what's a priority, right? And then you start to look at that. And also the remember that love isn't sacrifice, love is dedication. And because you're a multidimensional being, you aren't just one thing, right? You're not just a facilitator, you're not just a mother, you're not just a woman. You have all these aspects of you that make up the comprehensive journey of your life, and all of them are to be honored. So if you think that one's like, well, because I'm a mother, I must sacrifice this thing, untrue. Right? It's like all of these are part of your life, and you can dedicate attention.
So we can have it all. We can do it all.
Have it all, do it all.
And this is something else, Kevin, that I wanted to, if you could touch upon, is how, you know, I work a lot with different clients and they have partners, and I noticed also personally how so many people we settle, and I'm generalizing here, how even I myself, now that I'm officially single, you know, because sometimes people say they're single, but they're getting over someone. Like I've gotten over everyone, you know, and it's the first time that I'm really, really available.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm a little bit nervous because I'm like, God, this guy's got to be fucking awesome, you know, to be with me. And it's kind of funny where then there's a scary part of how one person is going to be that person, and how I think a lot of us are not really that excited about the person that we are with. And just from what I've seen around me, how, you know, there's these awesome, powerful couples out there that they're saying yes to that reality. And this is what I wish to say also to that reality. Yet so many of us are in marriages that we're not really awesome partnership. You know, I see the average more than the norm is unhappy. You know, even marriages are 50% successful. And so is there anything that you can help us all on that journey to being with that one amazing partner, that if we're struggling with like when I met you, Kevin, I was so scared of you because I have never met a man like you that's like so fucking awesome that it's almost like I'm looking for what's wrong. I've been programmed in the past to question man, and I'm so sorry, man. You know, I apologize. But it's like these protective mechanisms that I'm still healing through, I feel. And that's why I'm still single, you know.
Well, you know, and it's not far off, because you're looking at right, the comprehensive belief system that you're playing with and the ways that you conditioned yourself. And you know, we all condition our program ourselves based on the awareness we're in relation to events that we create and experience. And so if there's narratives around men, which there are often, and we hear it, you know, like especially with the Sacred Sons and the men's group we hear it often, where it's like women will say like, oh, there are men doing work, or they're like, I don't find any good men, you know. And it's like, that's, if you're saying that to that degree of passion, you genuinely believe that, and you experience your reality accordingly, which means even when men then would actually show up in essence of what you're asking,
you're not going to see them.
You won't see it, right? You won't see it. And so you're looking at that the twofold. One, to have an abundant mindset, which means you are absolutely aware of all the possibilities and opportunities available to you in the moment. Like that's true. You know, that's the abundant mindset. Also knowing that you're resourceful enough to see anything through because you have everything necessary to do so, right? And it's not just energy, it's not just money. Abundant mindset is your ability to really see all of it. Like if people get generalized and they go, oh, there's no good men or no good women or all these things, that's not an abundant mindset, because that's completely untrue. There's enough
so untrue,
right, to tap and to see all the gifts of life. And that's part of it. Part of it is that,
and it's coming from a hurt place, you know. This is the other thing, is where am I coming from? Is that really who I want to be, that identity? No, the victorious woman is like, there's an abundance of everyone out there.
Right. And part of it is being able to allow people to be on their journey, because it's like, as much as we all are on our journey for ourselves, the partners we have will also be. And as awesome as they will be when it comes to romantic partnerships, the whole point is to reveal to each other where you keep becoming more, and the willingness to honor and hold space for each other through that. And that's really the next stage where everyone's looking for is, I want a partner that can really accept and love all of me and hold space for my growth. And it's, and as much as people say it, like I've been with people that I've loved no matter what happened, and they still struggle to see that. You know what I mean? So like you'll see that the narratives that will be in, that even though you're actually showing up in a capacity that is unconditionally loving, yet you're in a narrative where you don't feel like that's the case for you because there's things you still don't accept in yourself, you won't see it, because you'll create the reality where you'll perceive everything that reinforces your narrative. So it's kind of, it's always twofold. There's making sure you're being the partner to yourself that you're asking for, which means you assuring that you address your shadows, these fears, and setting a standard of a belief that there are plenty of men out there in the world that are awesome and can show up in a beautiful space with you. B, that you absolutely can experience that wholeheartedly. And then the last piece, that you're also being the partner that you're asking for.
Being loyal to myself. Yeah. And that's
100%.
the part where, how many of us are really loyal to ourselves? How many of us are people pleasers? How many of us are,
really hold
Giving
space.
up.
Yeah. Do you really honor when you feel? Yeah. Like, do you really honor when you feel insecure, insignificant, or do you judge the shit out of yourself? Do you really honor when feelings of powerlessness and helplessness come up, or do you judge the shit out of yourself? Like, when it comes down to speaking up and owning your voice, do you speak up or do you not? And do you listen and really take in the information around you? It's like these things, if you aren't doing that for you, and then you want a partner to show up and do it, that's how dependency starts.
This is so funny because I asked the client, she goes, I asked her, I said, well, do you feel yummy? Do you feel pleasurable in your own body? And she said, well, no, I want my guy to do that for me.
Ha!
And so that will never happen because we attract what we are. We don't attract what we want.
Or even if she does bring it in, she won't recognize it. She won't
be able to receive it because
right.
she can't receive
That's,
herself.
yeah, because remember, law of attraction is just you stepping into the reality where these things exist. Now, whether you're present enough to witness the truth of it is the other thing, because you'll always bring both. Because that law of attraction, that vibration, isn't just being in the resonance of that; it's being in the resonance of that, regardless of everything. Because in order for me to like be in a more unconditionally loving space, that means I honor that. If anger shows up, if sadness shows up, if insecurities and fear show up, if guilt shows up, because that's the resonance. And if you're being that in the presence of these aspects of you, you are now setting the standard, and everything else will start to shift in your presence or step away. And that's the other insight. It's not that it all shows up exactly the way you want it to. It's you start embodying yourself regardless of the circumstance.
That's awesome.
So you're not waiting for something outside of you to be the thing that says, oh, by the way, you go, I feel this and this is what it is now. And then when things show up, you're also able to be discerning, like, oh shit, this dude really is holding space for me. Okay, I see this, and I realize I still have some stuff to navigate. Or it shows up and you go, oh, this, nope, I know that, Pat, I know that experience, done that, and here's where I use discernment and go, no. But you're willing to be engaged enough in the experience to identify it. Right, that you're open to it, because this is how you'll know you're being that partner if you start making different choices. You know you're being that partner if you experience more of yourself authentically. You know, like that wild woman of abundance, like, you know you're being that when all of you is coming online and you don't quell shit in the presence.
It's so important to know ourselves.
Learn the difference. It's vital.
And that's why I tell, in the Wild Woman of Abundance, when you join this 10-day immersion that I created, you must commit to an hour of you first thing in the morning, to do you first. And that is abundance creating, because if you don't even have time for you, and I know this because I lived this in the past. For sure. And now I look forward to the morning and creating this time and having this lovely relationship with myself where I'm out of it, and I get out of it and I'm like, I love life. It's just, I'm my best friend, and I've had to rebuild trust with myself and commitment, which was such a scary word for me. Remember? Mm-hmm. It's amazing. I was just like, this is so cool. I'm a different person. And I love that person too, that I was, because I would never have arrived to this person today. So right. It's all perfect.
And that speaks to you being this version of you now, in that embodiment. Because it's a greater capacity of love in you, will always honor those versions of you. Right? If you found yourself judging that version of you, you wouldn't be that full embodied version. And that's like the beautiful gift of it. It's like you're committing to yourself. You now realize that you honoring you is not negotiable anymore. It's a standard, because that's how we set it, right? It's like if you don't take yourself as a priority enough to ensure your own well-being and then contribute your gifts, what do you think a partner is going to do when they show up in your reality? Because it's not people's job to make you feel safe and significant. It's yours. And then they would enhance it or support it or reflect it, being a partner that they would want to be themselves, right? So that it's more of the independence of each other, the sovereignty of each other being more synergized and interdependent. But there's no way to be synergized if you both don't own your own sovereignty on your own. Like, I am safe and significant within myself. I'm safe and significant within myself. Dope. Would you like to shower each other in our safety and significance? I would love that. Can we expand together with it? I would love that. Oh, I'm feeling insecure. That is so okay. I will gladly hold space for you. Feel that. I honor that. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm working through it. I love it. I love that you work through it. I love that you feel it. I honor you. You want to go on a little adventure? Let's go on a fucking adventure. And you're willing to go through that process. And that can be a scary thing when you realize there are things about you you don't accept, because you're literally asking other people to do what you still refuse to do. You know, and that's that missing piece. And those are the things that we start to create where we feel like it's so hard. It's because it also comes down to a couple of things. Like, if you have a partner who's living their full authentic expression and you are not, their existence is going to constantly bring you to a threshold, constantly, because at some point something has to be addressed in order for you to continue on the same
Keep
path.
growing.
Dynamic, yeah. But if you're not being that, then this partner, right, at some point it's going to come to a head and things will shift. And I experienced that as well. And it's an important thing, because even though you'll love someone and feel immensely attracted to them and feel in connection with them, you're going to realize, in order for you to live authentically embodied, they'll suffer with you because there's still things on their own journey they have to navigate. And now that's what we have to be able to look at in ourselves. Are there still things I must journey and navigate to address in me, so that if someone does show up wanting me to be my full expression and they're living in it, it won't terrify me and me feel so suffering. Because if we keep putting it outside of ourselves, like, well, I just want someone to do this for me, then you already know what version of yourself you're being, and you know who's going to come to the party when someone does show up like that. And those are those spaces of vulnerable, intimate, honest moments with ourselves that are so vital to be able to set that new standard, you know?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This is like awesome content to share, and I'm really grateful for you.
Grateful for you. Deeply honored. Thank you for connecting, allowing me to connect and speak with you. Thank you for the work that you're doing, for your growth and contributing. It's so powerful and so necessary. So keep tapping into that shit. It's powerful.
And I'm living proof to everyone that you can go from chronic pain, codependency, being really hard on yourself, having a body that was so tight and contracted all the time, to feeling free and abundant and wild, and just wild meaning I just be myself.
Exactly.
I feel free. And I wish to believe that a man will want to be with a woman like this. You know, sometimes I've thought, and it's cute because I have two Latino brothers. They're like, Rochelle, you know, you're posting all those things. And I mean, guys usually don't, they want the more conservative, you know, quiet, the person who's not. And I was like, that's his reality. You know, I see that too with men, like a lot of Latino men, that they tend to want like the Virgin Mary, you know. but then, you know, you guys, anyway, that will go into another topic on another day.
Yeah, for sure. We'll go there, but I'll say
then they'll go off with then they'll cheat on their wife. You know, they marry their mother, but then they go with the other. So that's not the reality I want to create. Have the wild woman every day.
Correct.
And I could dress up as Virgin Mary too.
Right. And to close with that, like, that's the thing is, what you're looking at is a man who doesn't accept a woman being her radiant splendor, wild creature, dynamic, captivating force, is a man who's feeling his insecurities and has no idea what to do or process them. Because you want, like, you being all of you is what you want to live a life by. If you can live fully liberated on your own, you wouldn't be with a man that you wouldn't be able to be fully liberated with. And not even having to be a wish, like, own you, and then just get, like, decide and claim it. Like, and I so look forward to the man who will show up to dive into this wild, free spirit with me in full absorption, and we're going to create amazing things together. And it's like just own that shit. And that's the key, because you'll have men that will show up and be like, yo, dudes don't want that. Let's be clear. Certain types of dudes don't want that. And the only kind of guy that wouldn't want that is one that is not fully commanded of himself. Because what you just described is so important, where there's this idea, because remember, life is comprehensive. Everybody wants someone that could be soft and gentle and tender and fucking raw and dynamic and powerful. You want it all. And women want it all. And that's a really important dynamic, because feminine energy, and not just women, but anyone with feminine essence, which is everyone, and everyone who's feminine led, remember that feminine energy is that creative life force energy. So it wants the simplest moments of sublime vibe, and it wants the big extravagant world, and it wants the softness and touch, and it wants the raw aggression, and it wants all of it. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's like, we are beings of unlimited creative potential. And so we've been living in that space where we've been so afraid to function. But it's not because we wanted to be, it's just a lack of awareness. And now that we are are like offering our gifts of insight. We're witnessing a world come more online to the truth of ourselves that we for so long weren't aware of because there wasn't enough information available, and everyone just went with what was being taught. And now we're shedding and breaking down that old paradigm because the truth is coming through. And the truth is everyone is more than they thought they were. Life is more than they thought it was. And the whole point is to live in the truth of that. And
Yeah,
so when men,
the truth.
yeah, the truth, capital T on that shit, the
Yeah.
truth, you know, and
So
that's you're doing that. You're setting a standard that women are allowed to be freely and fully themselves and demand the space of energy that allows the men who don't just accept it but celebrate it and relish in it to come
I
online and
love
go,
it.
because men want that shit. Like it's like, you know, and so but they have to do their work too to be there, because everyone like loves the idea of it, and then they get there and it brings up the shit, and men
And you're
included.
like,
So you gotta, yeah, so men gotta be
well,
able to face their shit to
yeah.
go like, I fucking love this, you know, but they have to be able to face their things in order to do that. And so if women and men both keep tapping those spaces to be in that raw essence, that will become the standard of humanity, and we will be experiencing a different life in this world. And that's the shit I'm here for.
Yeah. Well, I'm so grateful that Sacred Sons is there, and the Light Beings community, and the Wow Women of Abundance movement. Yes. And so I will post, everybody just click down below, or all the links, and people can also catch you on Sisters, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And you have awesome music that you've created, so I'll just post everything down there. And definitely everybody join the newsletter for the Light Beings. They meet every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I put it on my calendar for every Tuesday the rest of my life. Hey. So I'll be there. And Creatorhood is going to be coming out, the next training, the one that I just, and I highly recommend that to everybody. So just stay on the newsletter and you'll hear all about that.
Yes.
Thank
indeed.
you. You're so dope.
You're dope. I love it.
I love it. Love it. Love it.
I love you. Love it. Fucking love it.
All right. Lots of love to you, Kevin. Thank you so much. This is awesome. I'm ready.
Yes.
I'm going to go fly now.
Fly. Go soar.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Kevin. All right. I have to.
Love it.